Well, we're off and running. We've got a draft to talk about. It's Peyton Kraft, Mike Sanford, Andy Lindahl here with you. A little late, but when you got playoff games every night, what are you going to do? So hopefully I have a few more playoff games to interfere with everything coming up in the very near future. One team has got to win tomorrow night, right? One team.
Take both. I want both to win.
Okay. Well, yeah. But we need at least one to win. At least one.
We need both. I want both. Tomorrow's a greedy day for all of us here in the great state of Colorado.
Let's get greedy. Peyton, you want to tell everybody what you're wearing there?
Yeah, wear by Erin Andrews. Nice little Broncos gear. So, talking about the Broncos, you have to wear some Broncos gear. So she has a bunch. She has like a race car jacket, which is super cool. But yeah, I thought kind of have to represent the team a little bit after the draft. So yeah, pretty cool.
Well, I was there was a little before we started the show, a little bit of a humble brag. It was like, yeah, Aaron sent it to me. I'm like, wait, hold on, who? Aaron Andrews sent it to me. Okay, all right. Well, she didn't send me clothes. Andy, has Aaron sent you anything to show off yet?
No.
Has she asked you to wear her stuff?
No, I've actually people asked me to cover up when I represent them, frankly. So,
well, apparently Aaron was onto something by sending it to.
Look at that.
Because look, we already have our very first comment is I like Peyton's jersey.
Yeah. Well, I would say go to Peyton's YouTube channel, subscribe to her YouTube channel, and I'm sure you'll see all the gear in future videos, right?
Yeah, you'll see everything.
Who's your golf people that you also work for? You do a lot of the
X Golf. It's like an indoor golfing. They have one in like Denver Tech Center area.
Sweet.
Yeah. So there you go. All right, let's talk about this draft. I thought it was quite the it was quite the interesting night. We'll catch Peyton up because she was working draft night. I don't know how many people heard us, but I've got spies everywhere, right? I've got boots on the ground at any NFL event after working basically on a broadcast crew for a decade. And I've got old connections that I tap into so I can get a little sneak peek of the picks. And when I got the pick texted to me, I was like, Baron. So I looked at it and I remember D-Max like, spit it out. What do you know? And I'm like, I don't know anything because I don't know who this is. I was like, is this person high? Did I just get duped? What is going on? So then Mike's like, just say it. And I go, Baron. And Mike, Tyler, we all were just like, who? What? I had to go look it up. And then finally I figured out, it's Jahdae Barron. And none of us, not on any of our radar, certainly at the time. I didn't even see a mock draft. I think I saw one mock draft where Jahdae made it to Tampa, and Tampa took him, okay? But again, not on my radar. I thought they might go a pass rusher, maybe a defensive tackle. Like, it would not have shocked me if they would have taken the Oregon guy. If the Oregon defensive tackle, who sadly lost his mom right after the draft was over, but at least she was there officially for him to get drafted. But I think we all thought it'd probably go offensive. I still would have been mad if it was Emin Wari, the safety out of South Carolina. But now that we've all had a time to think about it, Peyton, Mike, what do we think of the pick, and what do we, do you like going for value there?
Yeah, I mean, I was shocked we didn't go. I mean, you saw Amari and Hampton go right after to the Steelers. So I'm not sure if the Steelers didn't realize that the Broncos were going to pick him, and they, once he was still available, just picked him right up.
Well, actually, so Amari and Hampton went to the Chargers. The D tackle I thought that Denver probably liked went to the Steelers.
Yeah. So, I mean, defensively, we need it. Even though we had defensive player of the year, we still need depth on our defense. So I think he's a great pickup from Texas. I mean, he had 61 tackles, 5 interceptions, 11 pass deflections. So I do think that he is going to be a great addition to the Broncos. I was surprised they picked him in the first round. I thought we'd go for someone more offensively, but I think he'll be a great addition for the Broncos.
Yeah, shock was certainly the proper way to describe. I think all of us, right? I mean, like anybody who said, "Yeah, I had Jahdae Barron on my mock draft," even though I actually did see somebody on Twitter from Broncos Twitter sphere that did actually have Jahdae Barron on a mock draft, which is wild. That's pretty damn impressive because that's a deep cut. It was surprising, but hey, let's be honest, man, and gal. Did we have any of these players that the Broncos selected? Did really any of us talk about this? The
No.
only one I saw a little bit of RJ Harvey talk. I didn't see any Pat Bryant talk.
No.
Yeah, the tight end we picked.
Caleb
No
Lohner.
clue. Yeah.
I still don't know if anybody
really knows who he is.
Still,
I mean, he
like,
didn't play
I
last
don't know if
year.
the guys
Really.
at Utah that played with him last year, like I think he was on our team. He had like
Hey,
5
Peyton and I watched the guy catch touchdowns against the Buffs because
Yeah,
we
that's
usually
true.
watched most of the game together in the back of the end zone.
Yeah.
One might have happened in front of us, matter of fact.
Right, but I mean, he only had 4 touchdowns. Like he only really played like 4 times pretty much this season. So
It's wild. Yeah. So it's just the entire draft, it was one of those that, man, they don't care about your mock draft. They don't care in talking about Sean and George Payton, like they're married or related, even though it's spelled different. But they just want to go with what they view to be the best fits for them. And I think across the board, I think they deserve the right to be trusted. And I think that the Jahdae Barrett selection, I was indifferent about it on draft night, Andy. I mean, I knew that this was something that meant that he was the best available player by far and was probably somebody that they didn't even believe would be available at that pick,
which is what it was,
right? And so then I started had a chance to talk to his defensive coordinator at the University of Texas, a former Boise State defensive line and defensive coordinator, Pete Kikowski, and I got pretty excited about him. I really did. And I think the number one thing about him that you should be excited about as a Denver Bronco is tremendous leader, team captain, very, very intelligent. And I think the bigger one is that he can play so many different roles on the defense. And if there's one thing that really played out down the stretch for the Broncos is when they had a little bit of injury accumulation, that defense started to become a little bit more susceptible. And it showed that it didn't quite have the depth it needed to be a championship defense that carries you. I think that this selection, it assures that you're in that spot.
All right. So I will say this, and one of the lasting things I remember in 2015 when that Super Bowl champion defense, the no-fly zone, came into existence, Jeff was telling me all camp, Jeff Legwold was telling me all camp, this defense is so good. And they had joint practices against the 49ers when the 49ers could not do anything. And I asked Jeff point blank, I said, what is so special about this group? And he said, Andy, they can both rush and cover. And most defenses, and Mike, you probably dealt with this, they can either cover or they can rush. But very few get both of them together. And when you get both of them together, as we saw in that magical 2015 season, you get the Legion of Boom, you get the no-fly zone, you get the Baltimore Ravens, you get that team that just, they're so tough to play against. And I think Philly probably had a little of that going on as they made life hell for Patrick Mahomes because they could rush with 4 and cover with the other 7, right? So, I don't have a problem with the concept of cornerback, even though it wasn't. I love best player available. Jeff has told me so many times, and look, Jeff has been trained to be an NFL scout. People don't know it. Jeff's been offered scouting jobs and has just turned it down for more of the family life. So scouts are on the road, and you can talk about it, Mike. It is not a family job too often if you're a scout, right? Because you're just constantly going.
You're probably, it's like for say if you have 4 weeks in a month, you're on the road for 3 of them.
Right.
For your life. Like that's the ratio of your living situation.
So Jeff will tell me all sorts of different things, but he's always told me best player available, Mike and Peyton. He always likes to say that what happens in the NFL draft far too often is you force a pick for something that's a quote unquote need. You pass on great players, and then the good teams, the Ravens, the Steelers, the dynastic type of teams, the Chiefs now, they take those good players you left on the board and they come back and beat you with them.
Amen. All you got to, sorry to interrupt. I didn't know I thought you were done with the statement. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, all I was going to say is that if you put the next no-fly zone together, and by all accounts, this guy was Jeff's 8th player in his top 100, and you got incredible value. And as you probably talked about, Mike, he can play safety. Like, again, Jeff's told me this guy could be better than PJ Locke if you need him to fill in there. Yeah, he may beat out Riley Moss as the other starting corner. If he doesn't, he's certainly better than Jaquan McMillan. And you probably are not going to want to pay the price for Jaquan McMillan, who's a pretty damn good corner himself. So I think it's a great I think it's a great pick. And if the rush stays at a high level like it ended last year on, this could be a nightmare defense for teams to play.
Yeah, and I agree with what you're saying. If you look at some of these dynastic teams that are in a position to be able to take best player available, and frankly, I mean, it comes back to what we all said. If you get your quarterback, it affords you the opportunity as a franchise to make these types of selections. And the Broncos have their quarterback, and that's one thing that, if you get it right, and there's no guarantee that you get it right, but the fit was right, then you get to have a chance to do what two teams really did that are dynastic tight teams, and meaning they're competing for Super Bowls. It feels like almost every second or third year over the last 15, 20 years. And that's the Baltimore Ravens. Who did they go out and get? They go out and get Malachi Starks and add a unbelievably talented safety out of Georgia. And then who did the Philadelphia Eagles go out and get? Didn't they trade up like one spot with the Kansas City Chiefs?
Flop spots.
The flop spots, the Chiefs, to go out and get Jihad Campbell, who is a freak show of a linebacker from the University of Alabama.
Even though they just paid their whole linebacker.
I know, but it's like, hey, add strength to strength. And are you going to question the Eagles based off what they did to Patrick Mahomes defensively? Howie Roseman's a genius. He's got former Bronco assistant GM Matt Russell there calling the shots too. Putting the draft board together. Those guys are putting together a really, really good deep team. That's what the Broncos did. It's awesome to see.
Peyton, and we'll continue to talk about the Broncos, but I've been curious your thoughts because Peyton spent a lot of time around the CU program. You were still a student. What Deion's Coach Prime's first year was your senior year of college. You did a lot of stuff with game day when they came to town. You did a lot of stuff with Big Noon Kickoff. You were around the team plenty. You'd worked on the PR side of things. You've seen Shedeur Sanders probably in some more private moments, we'll just call them, compared to what the rest of the world has seen. Were you surprised about the drop? Were you surprised about the things being said about him all during draft weekend?
I was surprised at how far he dropped. I wasn't surprised that he dropped out of the first round. And I think, as a quarterback, he holds on to the ball way too long. I mean, multiple plays for CU just kept running with the ball, losing 20 yards, and then it's 3rd and 20, and you can't really get anywhere with that. As a person, I do think he has a bit of an ego. I mean, your dad's Deion Sanders. You're going to have a little bit of an ego check. I think the way he went about it going into the NFL draft, thinking he's better than everyone, just wasn't the right way to do it. At the end of the day, there were plenty of great quarterbacks, may not be better than him, but when you look at his attitude plus how he plays, I'm not surprised that he dropped out of the first round. I was surprised that the Browns ended up picking him up after you select Dylan Gabriel before him. That came as a shock, but I'm just not a fan of his attitude. I think, when you come from money, yep, you're going to have a little bit of that attitude check. You're going to want to show it off a little bit. But at the end of the day, I mean, you're competing against some of the greatest athletes. So you got to kind of bring that in a little bit.
Mike,
I mean, you bring up a bunch of very valid points. And yeah, you were around Shedeur certainly a lot more than I was. And, I had this little deconstruction in my own stupid little college football coaching brain over the last 2 years where, yeah, there's certain aspects of Shedeur Sanders that are atypical from a traditional quarterback in terms of leadership traits and how you play the game and extending plays, maybe when you should just throw the football away.
Right.
And I got to the point in my own brain in my process of watching Shedeur and saying, there were a couple things that my old coaching side, pre-NIL, pre-transfer portal, I guess the modern football game, some of the stuff that I was raised in, the way I was raised to coach the quarterback position and the way I was coached, I would look at it stuff and I'd be like, dude, I just can't. I can't with this.
Yeah.
And then I started to think about it. I watched him time and time again show up in big moments on the field. Right. And that's the thing that I still go back to it. I think a lot of people are really confused by my take about Shedeur Sanders. And I think the best way for me to explain my take is that I was a bit of a doubter, a hater on his game. And then I was proven wrong multiple times to the point where I was like, you know what? I'm a believer in what he does with the game on the line. The problem that I have right now with the whole situation, as somebody who has grown to really like Shedeur as a player, I'm rooting for Shedeur as a player. I think he's in a horrible situation in Cleveland. I think it's a despicable situation. I think that there was clearly a rift between the head coach and general manager, who I think they were on the same page and who they wanted to go out and get. And that was Dylan Gabriel, which, by the way, is weird to me.
Yeah,
Okay?
I don't know why you take him.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me. 6-year quarterback. I mean, shade under 5'11", not an elite athlete by any stretch of the imagination. No plus arm talent. Just a good college player.
Smaller than Drew Brees. He's like almost Kyler Murray size, isn't he?
No, he's small, and he didn't have the juice like Kyler Murray, right? Like to make things happen. But then the ownership group, and that's where I think the ownership group really was the one that pulled the trigger on Shedeur. And
the looks on the faces in the draft room when it happened, it did not appear.
It's the only thing that logically makes sense, right? There's no way that you go out and get Joe Flacco added to a room with Deshaun Watson, go out and get Kenny Pickett, and then all of a sudden you go Dylan Gabriel in the third and Shedeur in the fifth. What are we doing, man? Can you do anything more Cleveland Brown than that? Like, that is the ultimate Cleveland Brown draft. And here we are again. And the thing I dislike about it is I actually think Kevin Stefanski is a very good offensive mind. He's a really good coach. I think that the general manager looks like he's got his stuff together. It just seems like this is going to create a situation where most likely Kevin Stefanski is going to be coaching for his job this season. So the best case scenario for Shedeur might be somehow, some way get cut, during training camp, and then go out and pick your best situation where you can actually get reps and compete.
Well, there was a report today, and I think it was Matthew Berry's one of his guys. So I know Tyler and DMAC had it on their show on PhD, and everybody's questioning how valid this report could be. But the report was that the Broncos were interested in bringing on Shedeur if he went undrafted.
There's no way.
No way.
I mean, do you really think there's any way other than
if you truly believe that there's value, as Sean Payton said at the table at the end of the first round, then why not? Now, I think all of us on this podcast think that after Sean could not handle Russ and how long he held the ball, I don't think any of us can fathom or process how Sean would handle Shedeur holding the ball that long. But you mentioned if he got cut, then who knows? Let's
just say that what was said by Sean Payton at the end of round one, that was that the real evaluation of Shedeur Sanders from Sean Payton? Because I think there's nobody. I don't think Sean Payton and Shedeur Sanders, there's any world that exists where that would be a great fit, at all.
Well, even especially with Dad being up the road.
I mean,
and that was the other issue. I just don't think teams wanted to deal with the family, Deion Sanders. People just don't want to have to deal with it. And that goes back to what we talked about a couple weeks ago, retiring the number. I mean, you knew Deion Sanders had a say in that. Do you really want, as an organization, to have someone with that much pull, that much say, and their son playing for you?
All right, let's do this. We can switch gears again, because I'm sure some in these parts are probably worn out on the Shedeur conversation, but I knew Peyton knew him a little bit better than we did, so I had to get her thoughts on it. Where do we think the Broncos are? They're not done adding players, but majority of the work is done. There may be the late veteran signing or whatever. I'm glad they drafted the punter Crawshaw. I know some people it drives, and Mike, it may even drive you nuts, but look, if he's a 10-year solution to your punting problem, then it's not a bad pick.
It doesn't drive me nuts. I actually was joking that, what was it? What day was that? Saturday, being one of the best sports days in Denver sports history. I said, number one, Avs win, Nuggets win, basically survived their season, resuscitated, if you will. And then the Broncos drafted a dang punter, like all in the same day. Does it get any better than that?
Do you know why I'm not against kickers? We had a wild debate one day. And Mike, were you on the show? I know when Riley Dixon chose to go sign with whoever, I told everybody they're going to draft it. I think I was doing the show with Berto. I said they'll draft a punter. He's like, no, you won't. You don't draft a punter. And just all these people coming at me.
You pull the tape. That's a pretty good take, man. I like that one.
Well, we need to go back to it just because I remember Jason Elam being a fifth. I think he might have even been a third-round draft pick here. And I'll tell you this again: if you get a guy that's elite at his position, now he's got to end up being elite. All right. I know we all laugh at Sebastian Janikowski being a first-round pick. Yeah, that seems pretty silly. The guy scored a record amount of points for the Raiders, though. You know, how many first-round picks don't get past 3 years and they're gone, Tim Tebow? I'm just telling you that, again, at least some of these guys stick around. They're actually effective. To me, if any player is a long-term effective player for you, it was not a bad draft pick, because I've seen so many picks, early days, so much ballyhoo, and then they don't even, you get to camp, you're like, this dude can't play. The Broncos in the second round, they had a whole string of second rounders that were terrible once upon a time. One of them I remember, though, Paul Toviesi. Dude do you remember Toviesi at all, Mike? That probably you were probably still playing.
No, Peyton probably remembers Toviesi.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. Good old Paul Toviesi. He was supposed to be one of these unheard of rush guys whose knee was so jacked up coming out of college, he never even made it on the field for the Broncos.
Okay.
And he was a second round pick.
Oh.
So now that you've seen the body of work with the draft and most of the free agent signings, how do you think this team is set up to do? Are they a better team than they were a year ago, considering pluses and minuses?
They are. They're a better team. And I'd say it starts on the defensive side of the ball. You added strength to strength. And that defense, in a division that does have Patrick Mahomes and Herbert, now Geno Smith and Ashton Genty. All right. I mean, don't sleep on what's going on down there in Vegas. And, you had to get better on the defensive side of the ball. You're probably not going to outduel, either Herbert or Patrick Mahomes with Bo Nix. Frankly, we love Bo Nix. Bo Nix is awesome. He's a great fit, takes care of the football, moves the sticks, great leader, doing everything the right way. There is a ceiling that we all think is you haven't reached the ceiling. There's still a lot of growth for him. But is he a guy that you confidently want to go toe to toe with Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert and try to score 40 points in a game? I don't know. And look at, even if you do go that model, I don't necessarily think that you look at what Joe Burrow failed to do this year, and that's make the postseason with that type of model. So I think the Broncos, they built it the right way. I think RJ Harvey, he's an upgrade over everything you had in the running back room last year, period. We can break it down. There's things about RJ Harvey's game that I personally, I'm concerned about, but for whatever reason, when Sean Payton doubles down on a fairly high draft pick, he sees to it, because he holds the pen last as the play designer and play caller and controller of who's playing and who's getting the touches. RJ Harvey's going to be the Bo Nix of this year. He is going to end up being a top 2 running back out of this draft class, no matter where he was drafted. And Sean Payton will see to it, just like he did, that Bo Nix was a top 2 quarterback in this draft class, 2024. So I think they're a better football team. Did they get more dynamic? No. At the receiver position, Pat Bryant, ball accounts, is a really solid player, really smart player. Will do all the small
there are speed
things.
concerns.
Yeah, he's a 4.6 guy, which is okay. Amon-Ra St. Brown's is a 4.6 guy. The highlight tape doesn't get me fired up, but it gets me excited for a good player. But is he a little bit redundant with maybe what you've had over the course of last year with Tim Patrick and Cortland Sutton and Lil Jordan Humphrey? It kind of feels like he's another one of those type of guys. But the one big concern that I have, big concern that has not been addressed, and it didn't get better with RJ Harvey's draft selection. Who's going to be the third down pass protector on this roster right now? Who is the proven commodity that knows the NFL structures of blitzes, can identify them and pick them up, and then has the physical attributes to do so? I mean, the leader in the clubhouse for that has to be, it's got to be at Audric Estime, but I question that, because he wasn't really even utilized down the stretch in critical moments of any of the games. So I don't know who is going to be that guy on third down.
Well, and do you motion a tight into the backfield? We'll see. I'm with you, Mike. Peyton, what do you think?
Yeah, someone in the chat says defense wins championships, and I think with who you look at, the Broncos are playing, the Chiefs, Raiders, Chargers. I think they improved their defense, and that's kind of where they were lacking. I don't feel like we got. RJ Harvey, he's great. Pat Bryant, great. I don't think you really I wasn't super excited of where that's going offensively, but defensively, I think we won. And then people often overlook the punter position. If you have an excellent punter and they can punt, with with the defense that you have with the Broncos to the 2010, you're going to save a lot of yards. And then you have that ability with not as great of an offense as Kansas City Chiefs, for example, to actually get some points and put some points on the board. So I think we won defensively. I'm still, like Mike said, looking for that one player. I don't think you really got a tight end that can help with the offense. I mean, maybe Caleb will surprise us. I'm not sure. I haven't seen enough footage on him. But I still think you're kind of looking for that special player in the offense.
I think you bring up an awesome point there. In terms of the punter position, when you pair a really, really dynamic coffin corner punter, directional kicker, rugby style, which is what you're going to get in your new punter from Florida via Australia, you pair that with a really good defense. Those hidden yards in that field position battle, it starts to really matter. And where it matters the most is in tight divisional races and in the postseason. And I think you're spot on that, Peyton.
Well, if you could flip the field, look, Todd Sauerbrunn was a nutty character for the Broncos, but that dude kicked mood balls, and he could change field position for you. It's a weapon you need to have. Look, this team still's got to get some things, kind of some rough edges sanded off on the offense. You can't be one of the top 5 in the league in 3 and outs. You still need some more explosive plays out of this offense. Now, again, that's not all a Bo Nix thing. I'm with you guys. I'm going to quit talking about a tight end on the radio, I guess, because maybe Sean Payton hates me and doesn't want to let me have a fun tight end. Now, Evan Ingram's going to be an upgrade of the position. We got to remember that. But I agree with you, Peyton. I don't know that you have the young dynamic player that you'd like to see to develop at that. Because, again, Evan Ingram has, an injury history. And so it's not like you signed your long-term solution to this thing. I hope he's a really good, solid, and maybe even above that Pro Bowl style starter for the next couple of years, maybe even 3 years. But when's the next guy coming up? And God forbid we have a 2 tight end offense that could be a lot of fun. Now, as you said, maybe take Loner and you develop him and everything's great. But again, I talked to Jeff Legwell. Jeff said on our air Monday, I wouldn't be surprised if you just try to practice squad Loner all year, the Utah tight end, and just get him developed. He's got to learn how to play football. He's played more basketball than football at this point. So there's a lot of learning that has to go on there. I do think this team, though, here's what I think is great. No matter what happens, and Mike and Peyton, we were all out there at various points last year, at least this year, going into OTAs and going into training camp, there's no more quarterback battle. There's no more splitting reps. There's no more Bo with 3 different sets of receivers. It's Bo with his guys, getting the timing down, fine-tuning the offense. Mike, you can speak. I know Emmanuel Sanders complained about it during the 2 years that Trevor Siemian had to fight off both Mark Sanchez and then Paxton Lynch to win the job. And then we were halfway through that 2017 season, and Emmanuel Sanders is going, you know why we don't run crisp routes on 3rd down? Because we lost time in camp for this BS quarterback battle we were going through, because they all knew Paxton wasn't going to win the job. So if nothing else, this team should be ahead offensively or where they were a year ago, because Bo doesn't have to do the stupid merry-go-round that we all knew how it was going to end in camp, right?
Yeah, it was a waste of reps. It was a waste of development, but at the end of the day, it worked out, right? I mean, because outside of the first couple games of the season, regular season, where Bo Nix looked like a little uncomfortable and just wasn't quite there. Like
it probably was going to happen anyway, right?
Probably would happen anyway, but at the end of the day, somehow, some way, what I'm starting to figure out, because I mean, I was at every single training camp practice. We broadcasted 10 to noon during practice, and I would chart reps, from exactly what Bo Nix did on reps and, what Zach Wilson and Jarrett Stidham did. And like, there were days where the 11-on-11 team reps were like 4 for each guy. And I'm like, how do you get better? Your entire day of practice was 4 freaking reps. A game is usually between 64 and 72. You know what I've started to learn? You know where a lot of the work is happening with the Denver Broncos? It's not out there at training camp that we're watching. It's in those walkthroughs in the indoor facility. They must be getting copious amounts of work during those training camp, because those training camp practices were so tight. You didn't see that much. Or frankly, like Andy, would you agree? I didn't really come out of training camp practice really knowing that much more about this team than I did, when it started.
No, Peyton's been to a bunch of the Buffs summer practices. Maybe they look different, but Look, dude, I used to love covering training camp because I was watching football on the daily.
Yep.
And look, for a guy like me, you've told me, Ryan Harris has told me, I've had a number of pros tell me there's plenty of things you can get done without beating each other's head in. As just the meatball fan media guy, I'd rather watch you guys beat your head in than whatever this drill oriented stuff is. I used to love watching like football practice and goal line drills and all that other stuff. But yeah, I'm with you. Now look, I would also say I think the first month of the season went about the way we thought it would because it looked like that practice. A lot of short stuff, a lot of stuff to the line. But then Bo got to know his receivers, and I think Bo got his confidence, and Bo basically told to Sean Payton to bleep off on the sideline, and he started throwing the football a little bit.
There's no question. I think this team's it's going to be in a good spot, man. It's
going to be in a tough spot, dude. Genty and Bowers, and don't sleep on Geno Smith, man. Don't go sleeping on Geno Smith. They drafted some linemen. This is going to be a tough division. They actually have competent coaching. As Leggy said after Josh McDaniels left, and it was the greatest thing ever, with John Fox, there's an adult in the room. Well, I hate to tell you, the adult's back in the room with the Raiders, and they're not going to be – so this division's going to be a bloodbath, possibly.
So I think it arguably will be the best division in football. I mean, it looks like that. The NFC North certainly added some really good players to an already really good division. But yeah, it's going to be a tough division. Are you going to be in Splitsville with the Raiders now? Like, that's a series that outside of Antonio Pierce, coaching a dysfunctional franchise and then getting fired. He got fired with some games left in the season, right?
Oh yeah.
Yep. That's just, you're not going to get those 2 victories guaranteed anymore. And, one of the really interesting things for me, I didn't love Omarion Hampton, but for whatever reason, him with Jim Harbaugh and the Chargers and the way they're going to run the football, I'm kind of scared about him now.
Well, yeah, because listen, Sean Payton likes to talk about running the football, but he shows you constantly he's a throw first guy, and that's fine. It's worked for him. Jim Harbaugh is a run first guy, and Omarion Hampton is the perfect back to pair with that guy. That's why I'm with you, Mike. I would not have liked it as much for the Broncos, certainly, as I do for Harbaugh with his dedication to the run. Let's start to wrap it up. Let's do this. I want to hear from both of you. Let's start with Peyton. Who was the favorite you heard about in the draft that you're disappointed they didn't get?
I mean, Ashton Genty, I knew we wouldn't get. I wish we would have gotten him. I wish we would have gotten a running back or Gunnar Helm, tight end from Texas. I really wanted a really good tight end for the offense, and I think Gunnar Helm would have been phenomenal with the Broncos. So that is one that I wish we could have gotten.
Mike?
I would say the opportunity to have gone out and gotten Torrey Horton of Colorado State. He goes to the Seattle Seahawks, and I think he's actually going to end up factoring into legitimate production and playing time. Did he go 5th round? I believe, is that what his 5th, 4th,
yeah, because he went after Shador. I was starting to wonder, would he beat Shador off the board? And then
there was a lot of players I was wondering who would beat
the thing for Torrey Horton that I saw, which would have been a tremendous fit for maybe a void that the Broncos have. They have some bigger receivers. He's a 6'3" guy that runs 4.4 and high production player. Big route tree guy. I think he would have actually fit really well. Man, I don't see the film of Pat Bryant being better than Torrey Horton, but as I'm a high school coach, what the heck do I know?
Well, I don't know. Maybe the hometown, maybe the home state got in there. I'm with you, Terrence Ferguson, Gunnar Helm. I really would have loved a Luther Burden. I started to really like the idea of Luther Burden or
when did he go? About 30. He went really early in the second round, right?
Well, there was the whole second round started, and all the dudes' names we talked about it just went bing, 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 bing. They were all gone. They were gone so fast.
Yeah, it was funny.
Judkins was another one. Quinshawn Judkins I was intrigued by. But, this happens I can't remember the last time I thought, other than Von Miller, hey, get that guy, and they went and got that guy. Whenever they pick around 20 or something, every time I fall in love with a dude, that ain't the dude they pick.
Yeah.
So, I was talking to your guy, Doug Martin. I was told they love Doug Martin. They love Doug Martin. And then all of a sudden, here we are, 31st pick. Doug Martin's there. So's LeBron. We're trading out. Never mind. We don't really want him.
They didn't love Doug Martin.
Well, guys, good work. Enjoyed working with you this year. Hopefully we'll all do it again next year. When it's time for the draft again, and then maybe we'll pick this back up as we get some, if nothing else, training camp. But we might keep this crew together. We could just talk a little bit of everything, or we could just make Peyton come on here and we'll just tell her about the old days, Mike, like we did last podcast.
I love that.
Well, that was a banger, man.
Did your dad catch any of that, by the way? Did your dad have anything to say about that?
I forgot how good that was.
No,
man.
I mean Peyton's dad.
Oh yeah, they're like, you don't know what half those things are. I go, no. Like, you guys think I know this? No.
Her parents is as old as me and you, Mike.
Yeah.
Probably more me than you, but you ain't far off, my friend.
What are you talking about, man? I just turned 28, man. Get off.
Yeah.
Get off me,
Well,
man.
if you'd shave that beard, we'd all buy it. When you need to look old and distinguished, that's when the beard comes
For
out.
sure. Speaking of which, tomorrow I get to go to an event where Nick Saban is speaking. So that'll be interesting.
Well, you know what? I've got a secret connection that's going to help the Broncos do their schedule release video. So we'll wait for that to come out, and then we'll have to talk about that. See, again, we may just have to do this podcast. I don't know what we'll call it, but we'll figure it out. All right. For everybody out there, we appreciate you. We hope that, let's see. Oh, KW, I don't know why D-Mac's not on YouTube anymore. Sorry. Yeah, he's all through the altitude stuff now, KW. That's mainly why. We get that question of Peyton's Peeps. We could do Peyton's Peeps. Why not that? Here.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Good.
Rolls off the tongue. Maybe then we'll all get the Aaron Andrews clothing line.
That's how we're gonna. Yeah, I'll disperse it.
I think the Aaron Andrews cut of just the kind of the general
clothes.
fit.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's necessarily going to be for me and Andy.
I don't think there's a 3XL man size in that sweatshirt she's wearing. So
yeah, may just be like women's clothing.
yeah, we'll just keep it. You and I can get nothing, Mike. Apparently nothing.
Andy's been known to wear some women's clothing from time to time. It gets weird. It's real weird.
Well, hey, the 80s were different, man. Go watch Benny Hill. All right, we'll talk to you all. Well, you know what? Keep an eye on Twitter. When we get this all figured out, we'll jump on again. I don't know. Maybe we'll get on and talk about whatever the playoffs are doing next week, but we'll wait. How about we get there? I'm a little nervous.
How about this?
We'll just negotiate on air.
How are we feeling? Who are we feeling stronger about getting out of these this first round series?
All of a sudden, it's the Nuggets.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was the Avs, and then after last game, after 9 seconds.
Now here's the good news: every Stars Avs game has been like a movie. It's been like the Twilight Zone, where every show tells a different story.
Yeah.
Not like a series, not like the series of Harry Potter's
really,
or the
really
series of Star Wars where they all fit together. Every game has been so freaking dramatically different. I don't know what to expect game to game. So that's what we can bank on.
Is that now, Andy? I've loved hockey my whole life. Have I watched it with the time that I was allowed to watch? No. So I've had years where I had my team, places that I lived, Stanley Cup run when I was living in near Nashville, San Jose Sharks when I was coaching at Stanford. Is that pretty normal in a hockey, like in an NHL postseason environment, or is this pretty abnormal? For each game to look like it's not like the Clippers and Nuggets feel like a continuation of a series, right?
Well, I've got the Wolves and the Lakers on, and it's all been the same stuff and guys getting hurt and no, this has been the most unique hockey series I've ever watched, because at times it looks like the Avs are the absolute dominant team and the Stars don't belong out there. And yet then there's the other times where Pete DeBoer does his Pete DeBoer things. And look, I don't agree with this statement in full necessarily, but the Avs at times, what KW is saying, the Avs at times do play the prettiest girl at the pageant style of hockey, and that's not what the playoffs are about. We talked to John Michael Lyles about it. Lyles talked about how, they condense the ice, they take away the east-west, side-to-side passing. You're not going to get – and look, I've coached lacrosse teams that have had this problem, because there's a lot of similarities between the indoor lacrosse game and hockey's, their thinking. That's why a lot of those guys are crossover type players. And when you're always looking for that backside shot that the goalie's got no chance in recovering to save, that's not playoff hockey. Yeah. Playoff hockey is throw the damn puck at the net, and go and crash the net and get the ugly goal home. It's the Gabe Landeskog. Sam Girard's shot wasn't special, but the fact that Gabe Landeskog on that fourth goal on Saturday's game wrestled all the vision out of Ottinger and the goal goes in, that's playoff hockey.
Yeah, it is.
It hurts. It's playoffs in anything. The playoffs are ugly in any sport. It's just how it is. You can't get fascinated with trying to be, not everything's a Sports Center top 10 highlight. Just win the damn game. It's like the NCAA tournament, survive in advance. It's all that matters. All right.
No, I agree. And I think that KW has a good point right here. Like it's the high flying, fast skating teams. They struggle in the playoffs. The thing I do that gives me a little bit more of the warm, good vibes is that I like the Brock Nelsons that you added to this roster, the Lindgrens, and obviously, getting Gabe Landeskog back, Val Nichushkin. You have some guys that are bigger presence, either in the net front space or that are going to do a lot of the sloppy work on the boards and in the corners. Like those guys need to just cut it loose and be that, because you don't just have a bunch of skaters now. You got some guys that can go out there and bang.
Well, and they need to I think it's time to put, I've said this forever. Peyton's heard me gripe about this. I don't know why Netchus and Nelson got broke up. I'd put Netchus back down with Nelson. I'd put Gabe. Gabe's shown me. I can't believe it. It's the most amazing thing I've ever seen, and I'm not exaggerating when I say that. But I would put him on the top line and put some grit in front of the net because it's just too pretty up there right now.
What do you do with Val?
Get your ass going. Let's go.
Yeah, it's
go be the size with Netchus and Nelson. If you want, then put Val up there or something. But Netchus, I feel like Nate yelled at Netchus early after the trade, and I feel like he's been freaked out ever since. Charlie Coyle got yelled at by Nate the other night, and Charlie Coyle yelled right back.
Mm-hmm.
That those are the dudes that I think need to be with Nate and Gabe. And I think I said this when I did my Scott Hastings podcast earlier too. I hope that Landeskog is reestablishing. I'm going to be back. I'm back. I'm the dude. I'm the captain. And he can maybe dial Nate down a little bit over this next season. Because I do think Nate reminds me of Peyton Manning. Intense competitors that are so good, nobody can, no matter how much practice, you are never going to be as good as those two were at what they played. But they also wear people out.
Yep.
And I knew a lot of Peyton's teammates that just needed a break from him by the time the end of the season came. And I think Nate does the same thing. So we never need a break from necessarily Peyton or Peyton, but it is time to go to bed because Mike has to go and see his guy Nick Saban tomorrow and rub elbows in the coaching world. So we're going to bid you all adieu, and we will let you know in the next edition and whatever the new name of this podcast is going to be. But till then, good night all.
Good night.